Before the first libraries were built or the first crowns were forged, Tamriel existed in a state of raw, unmapped wilderness. This was the Merethic Era, a time so distant that no human had yet picked up a pen to record their own story. There were no established borders and no sprawling capital cities, a vacuum, ready to be occupied by the first group capable of claiming it. The first to fill that vacuum were the Elves, the Aldmer. They arrived on the southern shores, having sailed from a legendary, distant continent known as Aldmeris. This map illustrates their path from the southern oceans into the heart of the continent, where they began establishing the first permanent settlements. These were not simple camps. The Aldmer built sophisticated cities of white stone, raising massive towers and gathering vast collections of knowledge in their libraries. This architectural and magical superiority led to a rigid worldview. The Aldmer viewed themselves as the natural, rightful owners of the land they were developing. By the time their expansion slowed, the Aldmer had established the first true baseline for power on the continent. They were the undisputed masters of the south and center. However, the Elven expansion stopped where the climate turned. The northern mountains were a different world entirely, frozen, violent, and already occupied. In the north, dragons were the apex predators. They didn't build libraries. They ruled the skies through sheer physical and magical dominance. The early northern tribes did not try to hunt these creatures. Instead, they formed the dragon cult, viewing the dragons as ancient, godlike entities that demanded worship and obedience. This created two simultaneous realities. In the south, an elegant society focused on magic and architecture. In the north, a primal culture built on religious devotion to monsters. Before humans arrived, Tamriel was already split between these two entrenched powers. Neither group felt the need to challenge the other, keeping the continent in a state of uneasy separation. Far across the northern ocean sat the continent of Atmora. It was a brutal, storm-ravaged land, even more unforgiving than the peaks of Tamriel. The climate in Atmora eventually became so lethal that the human clans there were forced to make a choice: stay and freeze, or abandon their homeland forever. They chose to sail, crossing the Sea of Ghosts toward a shore they had never seen. Hitting the northern coast, they found no empty land. Their new settlements were pinned directly between the dragon-ruled mountains and expanding elven kingdoms. These humans weren't arriving as an invading army. They were refugees who had just landed in the middle of a continent already claimed by magic and monsters. As the human settlements grew, their hunters and explorers eventually reached the borders of the elven territories in the south. The first contact was defined by caution. Neither group understood the language or the culture of the other, leading to a period of silent, suspicious observation. The Elves saw a rugged, desperate people focused on survival. The humans saw an ancient, entitled society that viewed the entire land as their own. This tension created a fragile balance. Three completely incompatible groups were now forced to share the same geography for the first time. This three-way occupation of elves, dragons, and humans was never a stable arrangement. It was a situation that required only a single spark to collapse. The interaction between these groups is what finally moved Tamriel out of the era of myth. The silence of the Merethic Era was about to be broken by the noise of conflict. Every major war and every legendary empire that defines the future of this world has its origins in these specific ingredients being forced together on northern soil. The Merethic Era left the continent crowded, with elven magic, dragon rule, and human desperation now occupying the same land. The friction between them became the foundation for everything that followed.